This week in Destiny, covering some of the most debated topics since what color is this dress? We have more info regarding what is coming to the portal and some changes that Bungie is either backpedaling or adding to the list of changes up and coming. So as they mentioned in their various tweets on the Destiny 2 team Twitter, they are reverting some of the changes they planned for the portal. Basically, they rewards nerf to solo ops, the reduction of engrams in the various exotic missions, as well as the change for prime engrams to head to the tower to decrypt, has all been undone. Now, this is all based on community feedback, or I should say, heavy community backlash. But again, this isn't exactly a win, because in many of the community's opinions, this is stuff that never should have happened. So, as much as it is good for the community, I will always reiterate this, it is not good for Bungie, because as much as they are backpedaling and listening to the community, these changes should not have happened. Period. But then we get into different things. So talks about things that are happening. So already live is some increase in match-made fireteam off time limits across the board in Expert, Master, Grandmaster, and some changes for Ash and Iron up and coming. The number of drops for Liminality, Inverted Spire, and Onslaught Widow's Court are being increased. Activity time has been rebalanced for Solo, Pinnacle, and Fireteam Ops. Fireteam Ops has a greater value for speed against killing everything, apparently. And then something new they are introducing, increasing the number of drops for many more activities and Fireteam Ops, as well as the team working on finalizing which specific activities they can buff up, but we'll share more details after validating these changes. And they are removing unpopular mods from the Fireteam Ops matchmaking pool, though this will be selectable in the customization section. Either way, portal rewards. The following plan changes are focused for increasing rewards or increasing quality. Chances of prime engram drop per completion reward. Activities with more base completion rewards such as Liminality and Inverted Spire will provide more chances for prime engrams to drop. So in this instance, I imagine the prime engram, let's just say rough chance, it has a 25% chance to drop per reward. That means that when you're running something like Liminality, which I think has about 4 engrams-ish somewhere along that line, or will have 4 engrams, it means there's a better chance because there's 4 different engrams that drop, or at least 4 different rolls of getting a prime engram. I honestly agree this is something good, because I'm not exactly sure how beneficial prime engrams are to leveling, because I barely stepped into the Destiny 2 leveling grind to understand how it works. Either way, this sounds like a good change. Then there is going to be a more consistent power reward experience for the upper power climb in Ash and Iron, heading up until 500 and 550. That is the pecs, or the peak of grinding for the up-and-coming season. Now more buffs. This is something talked about in last week's TWID. Basically something they want to talk about in general. The Desert Perpetual, weekly challenges added, improved gear tier drops, gear attunement added, portal, bonus time, account for highest power, various things. This was all already talked about. But here's the problem that I noted when I looked through this initially. Is this first statement right here. I don't want to catch all that. In the long run, we are still going to be cautious about a singular ops category or activity becoming the go-to for power leveling. Here's the problem, Bungie. There has always been a go-to. I remember ages ago when the go-to for the soft cap grind was Crucible, and then after that you transitioned into seasonal activities, because seasonal activities had the tier 3 power drops, which meant that seasonal activities had the best gear bonus. And then, when it came to the Pinnacle grind, guess what? The best place to get your Pinnacles was raids, because not only did they have the best increase, but they also had the most increase, because there was 3 to 4 to 5, however many per raid, there was always several drops. So just running one raid could get you so much power if you were just entering into the Pinnacle grind. And they gave you the most opportunities, considering some activities, obviously with challenges, would also drop extra gear. There has always in the history of Destiny been a go-to power grind. So instead of trying to make everything equal, you just need to accept that there will always be something better, and do your best just to make sure that you can increase the other ones to near that amount, but still accept there will always be a go-to. And instead of hammering that down so everything else has a chance to shine, just accept there's always going to be the best way to grind, and there's no way to change that fact. Either way, they are also talking about updating solo Pinnacle Ops so they don't get caught like stray Nerfs, addressing problem children, and a variety of other things. This is all just more So, aside from more actual coming changes, into this week of Destiny, Heavy Metal is of course returning. The other things they talk about is class identity, which is a little bit meh to me. I'll go over why. But then as well, just getting into it, like mentioned, Heavy Metal is back. Chance to earn the exotic sparrow that has guns again, in case you're interested in that. Although I have no idea why this sort of stuff took so long to return, it should be kind of semi-permanent. Either way, class, fantasy, and destiny. So they talk about guardians needing identity, which I do agree in some essence, some classes are just straight up better than others. The problem is making individual classes that have their own benefits. There will always be classes that are better for one thing over the other. It's a lot easier to solo difficult activities when you're an Invis Hunter because you can be freaking Invis. You can heal yourself. You can get all this other sort of stuff. But going into some of the things I talk about, I do agree and disagree in some of these essences. So, Warlock traits. They talk about how Warlocks are supposed to be battlefield controllers with arcane abilities with ally empowerments. And because of that, they are going to be buffing the Warlock turrets to count as grenades for stats and perks, so you can actually build into your various elemental turrets. All 5 of them between Ionic Sentry, Arc Soul, Hellion, Bleak Watcher, and Child of the Old Gods. That is a good thing. That does lean into identity and empowering Rift, granting class ability energy, as well as neutral game ability energy over time and ammo generation over time. Both of these sound good for Warlocks to be, ally empowers and arcane ability battlefield controllers. They, you can build into your turrets, throw out all the turrets, create very much problems for your opponents, and then, buffing empowers allies and everything else like that. However, the rest of it, for Titans, they talk about how they're aggressive assault, damage mitigation, artillery expert. So Howl of the Storm, that uppercut with stasis melee, now gets 2 melee charges. And now the spawn pattern is different, and they added 4 ward crystals. In comparison, these don't nearly match with the last one. I have no idea how this is supposed to identify Titans anymore, just because we're throwing more crystals out. If we wanted to throw more crystals out, we could have just equipped Hoarfrost. I don't know. It just doesn't feel at all the same as these changes don't match these changes at all. Just, that's the only way I can put it. As well, Bastion will now have a faster cooldown in PvE. They don't specify how much, but, I guess that goes into the damage mitigation category. But at the same time, these changes don't sound like identity. It just sounds like, oh, this aspect sucks, so it needs a little bit of work. And we're going to count it as identity enhancing. But either way, the next thing they talk about is Hunters being attack precision, infiltration, and damage avoidance. Because of that, On Your Mark is getting a buff, so you can now build into it, since On Your Mark grants stacks of weapon stat instead of handling and reload. Now maxes out at 40 weapon stat at 10 stacks, rescaled how those stacks work. Precision Hit now grants 1 stack, Precision Final Blows grant 2, and Precision Final Blows at 10 stacks now cure instead of granting Radiant. But then Golden Gun Deadshot, I'm sure this is because of Vesper's Host, it now refunds ammo on Golden Gun Final Blows instead of Ignitions. You all remember that clip when throwing Ignition Grenades, Dragon's Breath, and Golden Gun, of just spamming Golden Gun over and over again? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the identity change disguised as a nerf so that you can't do that again. But then as well, they now extend the duration of Golden Gun on Final Blows, of course with diminishing returns, even less in Crucible, and Marksman's Dodge, reloading all weapons on pickup as well as picking up nearby ammo bricks on activation. Not gonna lie, this seems messy, because some of this just sounds like nerfs and buffs they wanted to put out and disguised it as identification. The only one that actually feels like increasing the identity is literally all of the Warlock changes, as well as this little bit about Hunters and the Marksman's Dodge. This sounds good, but the rest of these just sound like nerfs they wanted to give, or also this one a little bit, but the Golden Gun stuff just sounds like a nerf they wanted to implement, but didn't have a way to do it logically without identifying with the character. I don't know. But then, as a class identity wrapped up, the usual stuff. They don't want one character to feel too powerful or the one solution, but the problem is, in every scenario, there's always going to be one class that outshines the other, so this seems like a fool's errand. Aside from that, there is more of the usual TWID stuff, art and a variety, creator stuff, Emblem, Destiny Rising, donations and everything, but into the player support list. This one I've already hammered on a little bit on my own about, because it is another problem with another armor set on the same platform, but somehow Bungie didn't fix it the first time around, so now they have to hit this one again. I don't know how armor on PlayStation keeps being so crashy, but they really need to find out why. Then Tempest Strike does not activate combination blow consistently. The red dot sight for the attendate SMG is slightly off-center. Duality Dungeon is unable to be completed on Master difficulty due to the bells not being able to function and wiping. Players are unable to complete the Corrupted when it's active in the daily Nightfall rotator due to the teleport mechanic not functioning, and players will encounter Honeydew errors when selecting a portal activity and difficulty, then swapping gear and dropping below the power requirement. So with that, I just wanted to add one, as I mentioned in one of my posts. Yeah, I kind of played a Battleground, I think it was Delve, whatever the first part of the Echoes 3 Battlegrounds was, when you go into the Well of Flame. Yeah, I had an invisible, immortal, but still active Minotaur that I needed to... that I needed to kill to progress, which effectively soft-locked the game. Like I mentioned, my opinion of the Destiny 2 power grind was already low, but then having to scrap an entire activity just because one immortal, invisible, forever active Minotaur was alive when it should have been dead. Yeah, it's just not looking that great. Either way, that is all this week in Destiny I want to talk about for now. Like I mentioned, the initial reverts is good for the community, bad for Bungie, because in the end, they never should have happened, because, again, they never should have happened. The various buffs to various activities relatively sound good. The problem is there is still plenty of people who believe the problem is in the portal itself, and that it in total needs to be scrapped, which, I mean, I kind of agree, honestly. It just seems like the portal did nothing but alienate Destiny 2's casual community and made it so that Destiny is all about the grind when people enjoy Destiny for far more than the power grind. Either way, that is all I have to say. My name is the Mad Scorpion, and I will see you in the next video.